Hello, good evening and welcome to your prime time news here on TV1 with Newsfirst and Deshan Donawala. As always, we've got the very latest from here at home and around the world for you today. But first, let's have a look at your headlines.
Ranil Wickremesinghe sworn in as the new president. Opposition leader tells parliament ready to support to overcome crises. Is the opposition ready for an all-party government?
Ranil Wickremesinghe ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කරන්න ඕන මේ ආණ්ඩුව අන්තර කාලයක්ද දිගටම පවතිනවා. ඒ අන්තර පාලනය තමන් පවරා ගන්නා වැඩසටහන් මොනවද? මේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එක මොකක්ද කියන එක මත අපිට සහාය දක්වන්න පුළුවන් කරන විපක්ෂයේ.
මේ රට විහිසුණු අනාගතයක් කරා රැගෙන යන මාවතට ගෙනල්ලා තෙන්ට මේ රට වැටෙන එක ගැන අපිට බයක් තියෙනවා.
Arrest warrant against IUSF convener and Thera over 2021 incident. No deal Gama shuts down. What will happen to Gatha Gogama? Pilot project for QR-based fuel distribution begins.
Main sponsor.
Earn a highest interest rate of 21% for 4 months fixed deposits. LB Yasaisuru.
In your lead story today, Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the 8th executive president of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka earlier today in the presence of Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya.
The swearing-in ceremony of President Ranil Wickremesinghe took place at the Parliament complex. When he arrived at the Parliament complex, Ranil Wickremesinghe was greeted by the Speaker of Parliament, Mahinda Yapa and was accorded with a military guard of honour. Thereafter, the President was sworn in at the Parliament premises.
Ranil Wickremesinghe වන මම ජනාධිපති දුරේ කාර්ය හා කර්තව්‍ය ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රජාතාන්ත්‍රික සමාජවාදී ජනරජයේ ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවට සහ නීතියට අනුකූලව අවංකව ඉටු කරන බවටද ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජනරජයට පක්ෂපාත වන බවටද මගේ උපරිම ශක්ති ප්‍රමාණයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රජාතාන්ත්‍රික සමාජවාදී ජනරජයේ ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව ආරක්ෂා කොට අනුගමනය කරන බවටද ගෞරව භූමානයෙන් යුක්තව ප්‍රකාශ කොට ප්‍රතිඥා දෙමි.
After being sworn in, the President received wishes from MPs and ministers.
Now, the international community responded to the appointment of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
In a tweet, resident coordinator of the United Nations in Sri Lanka, Hannah Singer, said the UN acknowledges the constitutional transfer of power to a new president. She said, quote-unquote, now is the time for all stakeholders to engage in broad and inclusive consultations to resolve the current economic crisis and the grievances of the people. US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, has said she looks forward to working with President Ranil Wickremesinghe. In a tweet, the ambassador said, quote-unquote, in these challenging times, it will be essential for all parties to redouble efforts to work together to tackle the economic crisis, uphold democracy and accountability, and build a stable and secure future for all Sri Lankans. British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Sarah Hulton, has also said she is looking forward to working with the new government led by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. In a tweet, she urged all political parties to protect democratic and inclusive governance, including the right to peaceful protest. In a tweet, the delegation of the the European Union to Sri Lanka, said the EU hopes President Wickremesinghe's appointment will lead to an inclusive government with solutions to current political and economic crises. The tweet also added that Sri Lankan people can count on EU support.
Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe visited the Defence Ministry after being sworn in this morning.
Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Ranil Wickremesinghe, following the swearing-in ceremony held at the Parliament, arrived at the Defence Ministry situated at the Defence Headquarters Complex in Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte today. During his maiden visit to a state establishment after swearing in as the President this morning, President Wickremesinghe met with the country's defence top brass for a brief discussion.
Saman Ekanayake was appointed as the Secretary to the President. He served as Secretary to the Prime Minister when Ranil Wickremesinghe held the post of Prime Minister.
Celebrations were reported from several parts of the country after President Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in. UNP supporters organised a celebration in Baligama. The swearing-in of the new president was also celebrated in Alutgama. People in Katuapitiya also celebrated the swearing-in of Ranil Wickremesinghe. UNP supporters also engaged in celebrations at the Mahiyanga town.
Now, the Sri Lanka Police is requesting the public to provide any video or image in their possession in connection to the attacks on President Ranil Wickremesinghe's private residence located in Colombo and his official car.
In a statement, Sri Lanka Police requested that the material be sent via WhatsApp to 0718 594 950. The Criminal Investigations Department is conducting an investigation into the attacks on President Ranil Wickremesinghe's private residence located in Colombo and his official car that took place on the 9th of July 2022. At the same time, SSP Romesh Liyanage, who was interdicted for assaulting journalists on the 9th of July 2022, has been reinstated. Police spokesperson SSP Attorney at Law Nihal Talduwa, speaking to Newsfirst, said that the officer was reinstated subject to the judicial proceedings and disciplinary inquiry.
Now, opposition leader Sajid Premadasa said that he met with President Ranil Wickremesinghe today at the party leaders' meeting.
Premadasa said he had a cordial and frank exchange of ideas and reiterated the opposition's determination to provide constructive support to avert misery and disaster. Sajid Premadasa also proposed to strengthen the committee system in Parliament to achieve national consensus rather than dishing out ministerial portfolios to political opportunists, resulting in a drain of scarce national resources.
Now, will the Samagi Jana Balawegaya accept the post of Prime Minister if it is offered? This question was raised at the Samagi Jana Balawegaya press briefing today.
Journalists today questioned the General Secretary of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya on what steps will be taken if they are invited to take over the post of Prime Minister.
සජබේක මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක්වත් මුදල් ගත්තේ නැහැ. සජබේ මන්ත්‍රීවරු දූෂිත නැහැ. බොහොම පිරිසුදු කාණ්ඩායමක් අපෙන් ඉන්නේ. 20ක් 30ක් කෙනෙක්වත් යන්න දැන්ට එහෙම තීරණය කරලා නැහැ.
නව ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ යටතේ ජාතික ආණ්ඩුවක් කරේ සර්වපාක්ෂික මොනහු ආණ්ඩුවක් හදනවා ඒකට සහාය දෙනවද යනවද?
We will support the government, and our position is that an all-party government must be established. He said at the Ganga Rama temple that he wants to strengthen his party. That is not what we need right now. We need the country to rise.
රට දිනවන්න. ඔබතුමාලට ආරාධනා කළොත් අග්‍රාමාත්‍යවරේ බාර ගන්න කියලා මොකද්ද පිළිතුර? ඔයක පක්ෂය ඇතුලේ සාකච්ඡා කළා පක්ෂ කෘත්‍යාධිකාරී මණ්ඩලේ සාකච්ඡා කළා තීරණයක් ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට පක්ෂ නායකතුමාවත් මංවත් තනි තීන්දුව ගන්න නැහැ. අකමැත්තක් නැහැ කියන්නේ. නෑ අපි බලනවා මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා. මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාට කිව්වේ නෑ අපිට අදහස් දැම්මේ අපරාධයක් ඇරුණා. එතුමා විහිළු කරනවානේ.
You know that he cracks jokes sometimes, so it was a joke. I think leaders should not make jokes like that. I don't think the opinion of the people is represented through the parliament. Therefore, we need one that does represent the views of the country.
පිළිඹු වෙන පාර්ලිමේන්තුවක් මේ රටේ ඉන්න ඕන.
Now, the National People's Power convened a media briefing today and stressed that the President must disclose of the new government whether it will be interim or not.
What did we realize yesterday? Ranil Wickremesinghe is the Rajapaksa successor. This game was played by Basil Rajapaksa. Ranil Wickremesinghe is a character created by Basil Rajapaksa. Therefore, the Rajapaksas must be defeated at the election. We will launch a campaign calling for an election. They are aware that they have no mandate. Ranil Wickremesinghe is now displaying newfound love for the military. He visits injured soldiers in the hospital and addresses the troops on his way out. He imposed a state of emergency the very moment he was appointed and is now in talks about laws related to suppression. Authorities are chasing after the youth who led the agitation. Today an order was issued for the arrest of the IUSF convener for an old case. If Ranil Wickremesinghe is to please the Rajapaksa camp, he needs to rise up against the people who drove away the Rajapaksa family. He is chasing after the youth in the people's struggle because he needs to please the Rajapaksa camp, and that is why he is displaying a newfound love for the military. If there are attempts to take away the people's right to struggle, expression and assembly, we are ready to confront Ranil Wickremesinghe. Ranil Wickremesinghe must announce the nature of the government. If it is an interim government, what programs will be implemented? If we are aware of what it is, we can support it from the opposition. As far as I am aware, Ranil Wickremesinghe has assured the Rajapaksa camp that he will continue with this government for the next 3 years. When we reach a certain age, our bodies become very fragile. I think he may be experiencing something like that. I guess he couldn't recall his candidate. I doubt if one of those invalid votes was his. It is saddening that the future of the youth is in the hands of men who cannot recall what happened several minutes ago. That is why this kind of politics need to change.
Navimal Weerawansa is the leader of the National Freedom Front, and today he elaborated on the NFF's future plan.
The result of this struggle is that Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who won the last election, was sent home, and Ranil Wickremesinghe, who lost the election, was seated in the president's seat. In other words, the president, who said not to shoot even when his house was being surrounded, was sent packing, while the person who wanted to confront the Aragalaya has been appointed as the president. This is the result of the Aragalaya, or agitation movement, with no agenda, strategy or intellect. Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed president by a majority as a seal to confront the Aragalaya. So why did 134 MPs vote for Ranil Wickremesinghe? Their houses were torched. They could not go to their villages. They were attacked violently. First of all, this situation must be resolved. When President Gotabaya Rajapaksa left the country and they attempted to surround the parliament, they were not allowed to do so. You all think that he imposed a state of emergency and imposed curfew and issued orders to the security forces. This is the Ranil that they say they want. They thought Dulles was more democratic. They assumed that Dulles was someone who would get along with the protesters. That's why Ranil was better than Dulles. But considering the extent that the country has fallen, we do not believe that the new president and the team that took the initiative to elect him will be able to uplift the country out of this position. Ranil Wickremesinghe has no solution to the economic crisis. It is very clear to us. There is no other answer except go to the IMF. What will happen with this? The economic crisis is growing out of control. There is no international recognition. There is no local public acceptance. Then how are we supposed to get out of this economic crisis? Then it will explode again in a month and a half. That's what will happen. And social unrest is intensifying. Social antagonism is growing. When it erupts, there is a chance that they will take dangerous decisions to face it. It is possible that the bloodbath that the West is looking forward to will be created by this. If that river of blood is created, the intervention of the United Nations peacekeeping forces will be triggered. If it doesn't, it will lead to Indian intervention. This country has been set on a course for a terrible future. We worry that the nation will fall. Everyone should take all reasonable steps to avoid it.
ගෙනල්ලා. එතෙන්ට මේ රට වැටෙන එක ගැන අපිට බයක් තියෙනවා, වේදනාවක් තියෙනවා. ඒක වළක්ව ගන්න කරන්න පුළුවන් හැමදේම සියලු දෙනා කළ යුතු තිබෙනවා.
Now the Youth for Change movement said the people's struggle will continue.
The people voted to oust Ranil Wickremesinghe and Maithripala Sirisena. The people's mandate was disregarded, and what is more shameful is that those who said that they will never vote for Ranil casted their vote in favour of him. Is this the mandate the people wanted? When he was the acting Prime Minister, choppers were sent over the Goldface protest site to intimidate the protesters. Do those who follow Ranil's liberal democracy accept these acts? Do they agree with military intervention? There is no 8th executive president and we do not accept him. The 134 MPs can make him president for their families and friends. But the people of Sri Lanka are against the decision to appoint this president. One of the key demands of the Aragalaya was for Ranil Wickremesinghe to resign. Interestingly, the US Embassy has extended their wishes to him. It is clear to us what kind of international play is behind this. There is a definite intervention from the US, India and other countries. That is not for the people. Our candidate is the action plan of the Aragalaya. We cannot be stopped until that is achieved.
Now the 4th Magistrates Court has issued an arrest warrant for the convener of the Inter-University Students Federation Wasantha Mudalige and Mineral Rathkarawe Jinaratna Thero.
The 4th Magistrate Court issued a warrant on the convener of the Inter-University Students Federation, Wasantha Mudalige, and Venerable Rathkarawe Jinaratna Thera after they failed to appear in a case filed regarding a protest staged in 2021. The case was taken up in the presence of 4th Magistrate Thilina Gamage today. The suspects were not present in court, and based on a request submitted by the police, the magistrate issued the warrants for their arrest. The Fort Police had filed a case against the two suspects for unlawful obstruction during a 2021 protest.
Now the protesters from Gama handed over a letter to the United Nations office in Colombo.
A group of people at the Gama protest site handed over a letter to the United Nations office in Colombo today. The letter was handed over requesting the United Nations to look into the threats made against the people involved in the Gama struggle. They are threatening the lives of the people who had committed themselves to this people's struggle for the past 100 days. We all know that Ranil Wickremesinghe is a man who knows to play by the rules. He is clever in manipulating the law and the legal authorities. He had proven this even in the past. Because of this, we came today to the United Nations to request them to intervene and look into these possible threats that could be made towards the people involved in this struggle, including the Buddhist monks. Meanwhile, a media briefing was also convened at the Gama protest site today. We don't want to violate the constitution. Therefore, as a collective national movement of the people's struggle, we came into a consensus to move out the Gatha Gogama and Gama from these premises. We achieved our goal. We were able to defeat the Rajapaksa regime and we succeeded in sending them home. We will give 2 months to the newly elected interim president who came to power, according to the constitution, by gaining the support of parliament through a deal made from within. We will wait and see what his plan is to solve this crisis. He needs to inform the country of this plan, and if he doesn't perform as he promised, we will spark the struggle again. The people then moved out of the Gama protest site, which was set up opposite temple trees in Colombo.
Now today is day 104 of the Gatha Gogama protest in Goldface.
Sri Lankans continue to gather at the Gatha Gogama protest site in Goldface, Colombo for the 104th day today. However, there was no one present on the platform set up opposite the President's office. A heavy police presence was witnessed at Goldface today. This evening, placards and posters placed by the protesters that were inside the President's office were removed.
Now a protest site out of Colombo was attacked last night. This report is from Ambilipitia.
A group who were engaged in a protest opposite the Ambilipitia Urban Council came under attack last night. One person was injured and was rushed to the Ambilipitia District General Hospital for treatment.
They said that it's not a time to engage in struggles and asked us to vacate within 10 minutes. But I said that it is not possible unless the directive comes from the police or through a court order. Then they started beating us using iron rods. Ranil Rajapaksa was sworn in as president yesterday and he started his work from Ambilipitiya. Our people have recognized these people. They are the people who attacked the protesters in front of the Carlton House. We have all their details and we can present clear evidence.
The group, including members of the National People's Power, held a protest in Ambilipitiya this afternoon against the attacks. They demanded the immediate arrest of the mobs involved in the attack.
Don't think of messing with peaceful protesters. We are seeing this as a combined suppression orchestrated by Madamulana and Colombo. Therefore, we inform the people of our country not to be afraid of these acts. Let's defeat this. We are on the side of the people, raising the voice of the people in this struggle until this system is defeated.
Now, the Hindu has reported that Singapore has granted former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa a short-term visit pass. He left for Singapore on a private visit from the Maldives on the 14th of July.
The Hindu reported that Singaporean authorities have granted a 14-day short-term visit pass to former Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The Hindu report went on to note, quote, in a statement released in response to media queries about Rajapaksa's visit to Singapore, the Immigration and Checkpoints authorities said that he was granted a short-term visit pass on arrival, unquote. Quoting a report by the Straits Times newspaper, it said Rajapaksa was issued a 14-day visit pass when he arrived in Singapore.
Main sponsor.
Earn a highest interest rate of 21% for 4 months fixed deposits. LB Yasaisuru.
Now, fuel distribution from Sipet cofilling stations all over the island recommenced today. The Ministry of Energy said fuel will be distributed from Sipet cofilling stations and will be done based on the last digit of the vehicle registration number, subject to limitations.
Today, fuel was issued only to vehicles with numbers 3, 4 or 5 as the last digit on their number plate. The QR system was also implemented as a pilot project in 6 filling stations in Colombo. The Madivella Sipetco filling station issued fuel today in compliance with the QR code system.
දවස් 10ක් විතර තිස්සේ මෙතන පොලිමේ ඉන්නවා. පෙට්‍රල් වාහනයි ඩීසල් වාහනයි දෙකම. නමුත් මේ QR කෝඩ් එක එන්න ඉස්සලා දැන් මේ සෙඩ් එකෙන් කරන්නේ QR කෝඩ් එක 1 2 3 තියෙන අයට විතරයි අද තෙල් දෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ පොලිමේ දැකපු නැති අය ආවිල්ලා දැන් තෙල් ගහගෙන යනවා. ඉතින් මේ සාධාරණයක් කරන රුපියල් 7000ක තෙල් අරගෙන මොනවා කරන්නද 6 දුවන්නේ. අපි පිරෝම් සංස්ථාව විසින් පිරෝම්හල් 6ක් අද මේ ආරම්භක ව්‍යාපෘතියක් විදියට මේක ආරම්භ කරා. මේකෙන් සියලුම පාරිභෝගිකයන්ට අපි හිතනවා ඉන්ධන ලබා ගැනීමේ හැකියාවක් ඇති වෙනවා. 25 වෙනිදාන් පස්සේ මුළු දිවයින පුරාම මේ හරහා තමයි මේ මුදුකාංකය හරහා තමයි ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ.
Distribution of fuel was not seen at other filling stations this morning where the pilot projects were said to be conducted. A tense situation arose at the Sipetco filling station in Union Place, Colombo due to insufficient amounts released for essential services. Fuel was distributed today at the Gatha Gogama Sipetco filling station according to the last digit in the number plate. Our correspondent reported that the security forces have taken steps to remove the vehicles that were not scheduled to receive fuel today. The Lanka IOC filling station in Badulla received fuel after 5 days. People who have been in queues for 5 exhausting days were left disappointed after the filling station announced they are issuing fuel according to the last digit of the vehicle license plate. The Badulla-Colombo main road was also obstructed due to the tense situation that arose thereafter. None of the filling stations in Mavanella had received fuel till this afternoon. Our reporter said that the people were in queues complying with the last digit in the license plate. This is how people were waiting in the Sipetco fuel queue in Kandy. According to our correspondent, even though Sipetco filling stations in Kandy did not receive fuel, the people were waiting in line according to the number plate system. Tensions boiled over at the Lanka IOC filling station and Sipetco filling station in Anuradhapura. Although it was announced that fuel will only be sold based on the number plate system, some people attempted to obtain fuel by skipping the line. Meanwhile, a group of people who came to obtain fuel for a second time attacked the employees of the filling station after they refused to issue fuel. Our correspondent reported that they carried out this attack after coming back while they were closing the filling station. 2 employees who were injured in the incident have been admitted to the Anuradhapura hospital.
Now, railway fares will be increased with effect from midnight tomorrow. The minimum fare has been increased from 10 rupees to 20 rupees, that is half the minimum bus fare.
Due to the current fuel price, we have incurred costs of 47 million rupees. When compared to the revenue received by the department, it is reduced to a very low level in order to minimize this expense. To bring this under some control, the railway department has made arrangements to revise the fares. We have made these changes to adjust the fare revision to 50% of the bus fare and to work on the railway fare. Our minimum fee was 10 rupees and will be increased to 20 rupees. Additionally, based on our current fare cycle, there are upcoming rounds of fare increases for the first class, second class and third class fares. The amendment has been made to suit those conditions.
Now, a group of UN human rights experts said in an appeal to the international community that greater support must be given to Sri Lanka as the country faces an economic crisis and political turmoil.
A group of UN human rights experts said in a statement that Sri Lanka's economic collapse needs immediate global attention, not just from humanitarian agencies, but from international financial institutions, private lenders and other countries who must come to the country's aid. The 9 experts expressed alarm over record high inflation, rising commodity prices, power shortages, a crippling fuel crisis and economic collapse as the country grapples with unprecedented political turmoil. The crisis has had a serious impact on human rights, the experts said, adding that prolonged disrupted access to food and healthcare has severely affected people with illnesses, pregnant women and lactating mothers who are in serious need of life assistance. The experts said the snowballing economic and debt crisis was deepened by the government's hasty agriculture transition, adding that the World Food Programme has launched an emergency response as nearly 62,000 citizens are in need of urgent assistance.
Now, in the meantime, Amnesty International says that emergency regulations must not lead to further crackdowns on human rights.
Thiagi Ruanpathirana, Amnesty International South Asia regional researcher, said emergency regulations brought into operation in the name of public security should not become a pretext for more human rights violations. Amnesty International said it is very concerned such regulations will serve as a springboard for further crackdown on people's fundamental freedoms, including freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, right to personal security, liberty and freedom from arbitrary detention.
Now, in a warning to other nations amid economic crises in Sri Lanka, the US Central Intelligence Agency Director Bill Burns blamed what he called dumb bets on high-debt Chinese investment by the island nation as a reason for the collapse of its economy.
Economically, the Chinese have a lot of weight to throw around, and they can make a very appealing case for their investments. In security terms, they're generally a little more cautious, partly because they look at the U.S. experience over the last couple of days in the Middle East and South Asia, and that causes them to want to draw back a little bit too. But, I think in parts of the Middle East, they also suffer from the object lessons of a place like Sri Lanka today, heavily indebted to China, which has made some, really dumb bets about their economic future and are suffering pretty catastrophic both economic and political consequences as a result.
Now, it's been 3 years and 3 months since hundreds of people were killed in a series of bombings on the 21st of April. A media briefing was convened today by the Catholic community of Sri Lanka alleging that justice has been denied to the victims of these brutal attacks.
A new president was sworn in today. It is clear that he is not a leader of the people, no matter how much he assures on bringing justice to the victims of the April 21st attacks. We cannot trust him anymore. Take this as a challenge and prove us wrong. He was the premier when these attacks occurred. Your government failed to stop these attacks. Why don't you first prosecute the ones who neglected their duties? We saw how the previous president transferred the officials who were probing these attacks within hours of being elected to his office. This challenge goes to our new president. Try bringing back these investigation officials and let them continue their probe in order to bring justice to the victims of this brutal attack. It's good that they can carry out an independent probe into these attacks by bringing in the Scotland Yard. But we need to remind Ranil Wickremesinghe that he doesn't have to wait for Scotland Yard. Your parliament can reveal what really happened. They just have to make public the remaining volumes of the report of the Presidential Commission. If not, leave it to us. We can reveal who did this brutal attack. Not only the April 21st attacks, but we will also reveal the killer who killed Lasantha Wickrematunge, who attacked Poddala Jayantha, and who abducted Keith Noya. We challenge Ranil Wickremesinghe to hand over this responsibility to us. We are ready to take it. We know that Ranil was brought to power by the Rajapaksa regime, who is responsible for the Easter attack. Because of this, we are no longer ready to make demands from Ranil. But we are putting pressure on Ranil and challenging him. In the past few days, Manusha Nanayakar and Harin Fernando, who came forward to protect Ranil, lamented and asked for justice for the Easter attack. We challenge you to release the remaining volumes of the report of the Presidential Commission. And then, we along with the people will solve this.
මොකද මහත්තයා මේ
නෑ මේ ගෙදර සිංක් එකේ
අයි මහත්තයා ස්ලෝන් නෙමෙයිද දැම්මේ
හදිස්සියට බාලා පයිප්පයක් දැම්මේ නැද්ද මුදලාලි ඊයේ පෙරේදා කඩේ රිපෙයාර් කරන්න ගෙනාපු ගම් චුට්ටක්
මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට හොඳම විසඳුම ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටක් හැබැයි ඉක්මනින් දාගන්න ස්ලෝන් පයිප්පයක්
ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැම ගෙදරකම සිටිය යුතු ජලනල කාර්මිකයා දැන් රඟම කුලසරියෙන් මිලදී ගන්න.
Earn a highest interest rate of 21% for 4 months fixed deposits. LB Yasaisuru.
The Divi program to uplift the lives of poverty-stricken families was held in the Nuwara district today. The program is sponsored by LOLC Holdings.
The second phase of the Divi program to uplift the lives of poverty-stricken families continued for the 14th day today. Food rations were distributed among families in the Nuwara district today. The Divi program aims at supporting low-income families amidst the economic crisis.
Fast.
In your business news now, headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the National Consumer Price Index increased to 58.9% in June 2022 from 45.3% in May 2022. The central bank said this increase in inflation was driven by the monthly increases of both food and non-food categories. In your news overseas now, India has got its first tribal president. BJP-led NDA candidate Draupadi Murmu, the president-elect, will be the 15th president of India.
India has got its first tribal president as BJP-led NDA candidate Draupadi Murmu, scooped up over 50% of the total vote value after 3 rounds of counting. Indian media reported that the president-elect will take oath on the 25th of July, a day after Ramnath Kovind's tenure ends. The contest for president was between BJP-led NDA candidate Draupadi Murmu and joint opposition candidate Yashwant Sinha.
In your sports news now, the 143rd Battle of the Blues cricket encounter between Royal College and St Thomas's College Mount Lavinia began today at the SSC grounds in Colombo.
Gishan Balasuriya leads Royal College Colombo and Ryan Fernando leads St Thomas's College Mount Lavinia in the 143rd Battle of the Blues cricket encounter. Royal College won the toss and decided to field first, and St Thomas's College sent in their openers Senadi Bulankulama and Janidu Abegunawardhana, who put on an opening stand of 53 runs until lunch on day 1. At stumps on day 1, St Thomas's College was on 207 runs for the loss of 6 wickets. Sanesh Hettiarachi top scored for the Thomians on the first day with 55 runs, while Charuka Pires scored 51. For Royal College, Ramiru Pereira and Gishan Balasuriya bagged 2 wickets each. The Battle of the Blues is played for the coveted D.S. Senanayaka Shield.
Well, that's a wrap of your news for today. If you missed out on any of these stories or want to find out more, don't forget to check us out on our social media, News First. I've been Deshan Gonwala for the News First team. Take care and God bless.